Hello there, you're watching the English News Edition on Canal Algérie, and I'm your host, Karim Zachary. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, awards the National Order of Merit Medal to the war veteran and militant Abdelhamid Sidali in view of the nobility of his sacrifice and the duty accomplished for the homeland and the country's independence. In a communique, the Prime Minister, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, decides on the implementation of a health pass in line with the objective of preserving the health of citizens and protecting them. And finally, in Morocco, protests are affecting visibly all the sectors, and this time Moroccan conscripts expected to join the ranks of the Royal Armed Forces in 2022 are trying to reach Spain. Good evening, those were the headlines. Fast in our news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, awarded the Medal of the National Order of Merit with the rank of Ashir or Commander to war veteran and militant Abdelhamid Sidali in view of the nobility of his sacrifice and the duty accomplished for the homeland and the country's independence. The Mujahid or war veteran was Dean of Nationalism, Activism and a leader of the national movement. He was a founding member of the Rashad Madras in 1941. The ceremony was attended by the President's advisor of the Republic in charge of external relations, Abdel Hafid Allahum, and of the council or counselor in charge of culture and audiovisual, Ahmed Rashdi, alongside the Minister of War Veterans and the Secretary General of the National Council of the National Order of Merit.
Sidali Abdelhamid, a name engraved in the Golden Register of Algeria's national movements, an activist and militant, a war veteran whose faith in the national cause never wavered. Nothing mattered more than Algeria's independence. Sidali Abdelhamid was born in Al-Qasba in Algiers, where he learned that his strength came from the principles of the People's Party. In accordance with Presidential Decree number 21-514, dated of December the 25th, 2021, President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, bestowed the Medal of the National Order of Merit with the rank of Ashir to militant and war veteran Sidali Abdelhamid in consideration of his principles, the steadiness of his positions during all his life, and for his service of the people's national cause to recover Algeria's independence. In a recognition stunt on the eve of his 100th birthday, President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune honored the militant and war veteran Sidali Abdelhamid by awarding him the Medal of the National Order of Merit with the rank of Ashir or Commander.
Sidali Abdelhamid,
you are a political leader, and this award bestowed upon you by President Tebboune for your curriculum and positions as a war veteran and for your famous quote that I will remind you of. Before all your companion freedom fighters were to be dispatched back then, you told them, before you take any decision, first think carefully about Algeria's interests. Here is the last standing member of the political bureau of the Triumph of Democratic Freedoms movement. He began his militant career by the end of the 30s, and he lived through the best political steps which preceded the outbreak of Algeria's liberation war. Our dear war veteran was blessed and lucky as he wrote his memoirs in 2019. His memoirs which carried a lot of meaning and tribute to his companions, whom he met during his prison time in French jails during the liberation war till Algeria's independence. Sidali Abdelhamid has written his memoirs in a book entitled What I Lived, a curriculum of a faithful militant from 1937 till 1962, and he just offered a signed copy to the President of the Republic.
And that was Amr Dahmani reporting. Still, it is worth recalling for the occasion that the Algerian National Television made a few years ago a portrait of the war veteran Abdelhamid Sidali, one of the most prominent members of the Central Committee and Political Bureau of the Triumph of Democratic Freedoms movement. Manal Ammari has more.
The war veteran Abdelhamid Sidali is one of the last members of the Central Committee and Political Bureau and the triumph of the Democratic Freedoms Movement. He was among the founders of the newspaper L'Action Algérienne in 1944, a prominent member of the 1947 Congress when the special organization was established, and one of the creators of the Revolutionary Committee for Unity and Action in March 23, 1954. The war veteran said that some of the meetings took place in the Jami' al-Yahud Mosque in Algiers, among several other places. At the time, only 4 members attended the meetings, namely Lahwa al-Hussein, Mohammed Boudiaf, Mohammed Dakhli, and himself, during which they discussed the system's conditions and decided to name this militant group the Revolutionary Committee for Unity and Action. The country's situation left the 6 members of the special organization determined on the outbreak of the revolution. Abdelhamid Sidali said that they did not know which day it was going to take place, since it was all decided in strict confidentiality. But thankfully, these young militants' plan was successful. Abdelhamid Sidali was arrested in 1955 by the French colonial authorities in Bousville, Saint-Leu, and Douira. This brave war veteran hopes that the Algerian youth will work hard to follow the footsteps of the young November revolutionaries, who struggled and never gave up on their country's freedom. Even though they did not have all the cultural and scientific capabilities or any experience, they still took this major responsibility and worked towards the outbreak of the November 1st revolution.
Pursuant to the instructions of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and at the end of the consultations with the Scientific Committee monitoring the evolution of the coronavirus pandemic and the health authorities, the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, decided on the measures to be implemented in line with the objective of preserving the health of citizens and protecting them. Our country witnessed a surge in the number of cases of COVID-19 due to the great loosening of vigilance noticed among citizens with regard to the respect of the various sanitary protocols, and the low rate of vaccination of the population worsened further by the appearance of the new Omicron variant, which is spreading rapidly in many countries around the world. The pandemic situation today requires the commitment of all citizens to support the national effort to fight this virus, particularly by respecting the sanitary measures, but also through vaccination, which remains the best means of prevention. Faced with this situation and relying on the imperative duty of protection of our fellow citizens, the government is adopting a new approach through the institution of a vaccine pass, already implemented for access to certain public areas and as a condition to enter or exit the national territory. The pass will concern, as first step, the access to stadiums and sports events, gyms and swimming pools, areas in which gatherings, meetings, seminars and conferences are held, movie theaters, museums and places of entertainment, ceremony halls and ballrooms, be it national or local ones, and trade fairs. Measures to intensify the vaccination operations will also be put in place, especially in certain bodies of administrations and public institutions in the service and trade sectors that must be in the first or in the front line in terms of vaccination. This aims to avoid resorting to the measures restricting mobility or suspending economic and commercial and social activities or even home lockdown. Therefore, the government has decided to strengthen control operations in order to ensure strict compliance with the measures enacted in this area, with the rigorous application of administrative and penal sanctions against offenders. Finally, the government is calling on citizens to take the right measure of worrying health situation around the world and the threat of contamination, which risks putting us all in a difficult situation we have already experienced. The measures are applicable for a period of 10 days from Sunday, December 26, 2021. Moving on now, or still with COVID-19, 278 new confirmed cases, 190 recoveries, as well as 7 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours in Algeria, according to the Health Ministry. The significant increase in the number of infected people with COVID-19 does not seem to worry people at all. Citizens continue to disregard the sanitary measures and do not go for vaccination. A worrying situation which may lead to harsh realities. Let's follow the story.
After the third wave of the pandemic caused by the Delta variant in Algeria, epidemiological indicators announced a fourth wave, a situation that do not seem worry for the Algerians, who are yet skeptical about the vaccine. Compared to the last 3 months, there is a huge decrease towards the vaccination centers. We used to vaccinate about 600 people per day, but now it is no longer the case. The same goes for pharmacies, where statistics prove that people are vaccinated less, but ironically buying more protective equipment. I started my vaccination campaign about 3 months ago. At the beginning, there were a lot of people, but now they seem less concerned. According to experts, only a massive return to vaccination could slow down the spread of this virus and prevent a consequent fourth wave.
The National Prize for Architecture and the National Award for Urban Planning were awarded on the occasion of a ceremony chaired by the Minister of Housing, Mohamed Taraq Bilaribi. The advisor to the President of the Republic, Abdelhafid Allahum, was also present. The best architectural projects for the year 2020 were rewarded. Leticia Sidqawi reports.
3 architects were honored for the quality of their architectural works that varies between modernity and authenticity. Architect Tariq Bayramdan won the President of the Republic's award for his design plan of Garden City Shopping and Leisure Center. The Prime Minister's award went to architect Ridwan Aruni for his project of 160 promotional housing units in Tipaza. The third award, which is the prize of the Minister of Housing and Urban Planning in the city, was awarded to architect Hussein Zirarga for his design of the project plan of the Colonel Lutfi Hospital in Laghouat. The ceremony was also marked by the presentation of other distinctions to encourage young architects.
Not only receiving this award honors me personally, but it is also a prize that rewards collective work. I'm very honored by this award. It is a motivation for me and for all architects. These awards are likely to encourage all architects to develop urban architecture in Algeria.
It was also an opportunity to honor many young architects and urban planning and laureates of the various schools specializing in this field, promoting urban planning that favors architectural quality while valorizing the national heritage is a challenge that the housing sector is planning to take on. Housing Minister stated that his department will give in 2020 great interest to the urban planning aspect of homes and cities. This interest will be reflected in the revival, study and revision of the draft law on urban planning in the Parliament. He added that Algeria pays particular attention to the preservation of heritage and cultural and religious identity by giving great importance to architects as well as all actors in the field of urban planning to preserve in their design plans the architectural character of each region. German architect Jürgen Aniel also received a special award at the ceremony, a recognition for his mega project, the Great Mosque of Algiers, third largest mosque in the world.
In a visit to Blida province, the mediator of the Republic, Ibrahim Rad, visited several production units where he reminded business leaders of the determination of the state's intention to support them in local production and reduce the import bill. The detail in what follows.
One common slogan among these companies that paved their way to success, which is participate in the development of the national economy and the conquest of global markets, and to allow investors to implement their projects, is the aim of the visit of the mediator of the Republic, Ibrahim Rad, to the province of Blida. In every company and production unit that we visited, investors told us of their willingness to participate in reducing the import bill and increasing exports while creating jobs, especially for university graduates. The same is expressed by local authorities, which took the initiative to hold meetings with business owners. In Blida province, as across the country, there are examples of companies that reach their goal of boosting national production by using new technologies carried by young people. We participate in reducing the import bill by raising national production. The difficulties we encounter are common to all investors, particularly bureaucracy. To implement the orientations of the President of the Republic by encouraging and accompanying investors is an objective to be reached to diversify the national economy.
In Morocco, the protests are affecting visibly all the sectors after human rights activists, teachers and students were going to watch some footage of Moroccan conscripts who are expected to join the ranks of the Royal Armed Forces in 2022, trying by all means to reach Spain. Let's follow.
Dozens of young Moroccans trying to illegally cross to the Spanish enclave of Melilla, as shown in these shocking images of the new kind of illegal immigration. According to the Spanish daily La Razón, Melilla Security Service had to face a massive influx of young Moroccans aged 17 to 20 years old. The newspaper explains that these youngsters are Moroccan conscripts required to join the ranks of the Royal Armed Forces in 2022 for a military service of a duration of 12 months. It is worth noting that the Moroccan government abolished compulsory military service back in 2006, but restored it in 2018 due to the lack of volunteers who willingly want to join the ranks of the Moroccan army. It all started last week when the census operation for future conscripts began in Morocco due to the resumption of military service. But it seems that some young Moroccans do not want to join in. This refusal is due to the fact that the class of 2022 will be assigned to go to war in Western Sahara, a first since the 1980s. Many young Moroccans are not convinced by this war, and others do not want to lose their lives or get injured. It is also important to know that the conditions within the Moroccan army are particularly difficult and even more heinous in the units located near the separation wall.
The Sahrawi army continues its offensive against the occupying forces of Morocco, which injured substantial human and material losses along the Wall of Shame. Still, with the Sahrawi file, the special UN reporter on the situation of human rights, Mary Lawler, said that the Moroccan authorities have an obligation to protect the Sahrawi activist Sultana Khaya, who's been under house arrest since November 2020 and who continues to be the subject of intimidation, torture, rape, threats and inhuman practices. The UN reporter indicated that in June 2021, she joined other independent experts of the United Nations to challenge the Moroccan authorities on the case of Sultana Khaya, who has been a prominent human rights defender for many years. Well, that's the end of our news. Thank you for keeping it here. Good night.